I look at it as a playground compared to Western countries, right? Yes, you have like a smaller market, but there are also less businesses, less things that are sort of invented, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just get something that it's proven to work somewhere else, bringing different technologies in Bulgaria, different ideas, and sort of re-implement them here. Also, there's a lot of innovation that happens in Bulgaria that also gets internalized in Western countries, and I think this is something that few people might have considered.
This is the Back to Bulgaria podcast. Discover life in Bulgaria, one story at a time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Back to Bulgaria podcast, the podcast where you will gain a perspective of what it's like to live and thrive here in Bulgaria. I am your host, Katia Andreeva. I am a crazy American-born Bulgarian who's lived in many different cities and now has made Sofia my home. Together with my sister, who's just as crazy, we've decided to create this podcast to showcase the amazing stories of people who've decided to move or stay here in Bulgaria and are doing amazing things in this country. We discuss a variety of topics, from the basics of living in Bulgaria to how to build a life here and start a business. We talk about the topics that matter to those who are interested in making an impact in Bulgaria. So today I am excited to introduce you guys to Aleksandar Dimitrov.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you here because actually I know you via my sister. You guys know each other from the entrepreneurship nights, and now you guys have created like your own WhatsApp group and you meet up every now and then. And
True.
and I was excited to hear that you accepted to be on this podcast because I think you have an interesting story. It's not your, I think, typical story you hear out there.
I can't promise too much. We'll see about that.
In Bulgaria here, you are currently have your own business, Amused.
Yes. Amused is just a creative firm. We help like SaaS founders to build their brand and educate with content the benefits of their tools that they provide.
Awesome. Educational marketing for sure is an important topic when we talk about marketing. As a marketer, I also know myself. It's maybe too many marketers in one room at the moment.
That's what makes this podcast cool.
But maybe before we go deep into your story, can you tell us what's one thing we should know about you?
Related to this podcast, I believe that my upbringing, the way I grew up, and I'm from Pleven. It's like 7th big city in Bulgaria, in the north. Similar to Game of Thrones, it kind of sucks to be in the north. But what you need to know is that I never really thought about living in Bulgaria as soon as I had a means to move out, or as soon as I went on my first work and travel in the US, working in the summer, and even in high school, I always had like this idea fixed in my mind that I'm just gonna go to university, and the reason I go pretty much is to make sure I get this job during the summer, and I'm just gonna stay there or something like that. But yeah, that it just was an idea, but it didn't happen.
You always wanted to be abroad.
Yeah, like it was. I couldn't imagine myself living in certainly in my hometown. But Sophia kind of started to grow on me at some point. It took a while.
That's good background information to know, because maybe people often leave with the idea that they will come back at some point. But you were saying, okay, I want to graduate university and just to live my life abroad. And one thing that I learned about you recently is that you've lived in 5 different countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like I studied in University of National World Economics in Sofia. That granted me the chance to travel a lot, and Erasmus studies and different programs, and studying in Czech later.
And I guess the other few years you went to the US to do work abroad.
Before that, I was like just going to university to finish my exams on time, to really make sure that I have like not perfect score, but just like the minimum viable grades to let me go travel in the summer, so have to stay complete exams in July or something in the middle of the summer. And then I was like finding a way to get some job. And yeah, the idea was just to make money, but I was like, I wanted to travel. And pretty much I was like working a lot, 90 plus hours sometimes, like the first year. And then I spent it all just like traveling to Niagara Falls and Miami and like places.
And like you mentioned, you lived in Pleven, you wanted to live abroad. Was the US one of the places you wanted to move to?
Yeah. I was like, even in high school, I knew that because my brother actually went before me. I knew and I had to do it. And it was like this mentality that, I don't know how you say that, but it's kind of like a gurbet. We call it in Bulgarian. It's like a lot of people just go to, it's like you're doing a geographical arbitrage. You're going to Western country to live, to work, to minimize your spending, then just like pocket the money and like live here. It's like a lot of people do it. That was the mentality coming from Pleven. But being in Western country, I'm kind of like adaptive and I kind of want to explore. So when I saw the possibilities and all the things I wanted to see and check and experience, I couldn't really like save and just return and call it a win.
No, it's a great experience to travel around the US. All really unique and beautiful places, I would say. So maybe share with us where you've done work abroad in the US.
Yeah, so first year I went to Ohio in an island like Putin Bay, and it was like the first time I pretty much traveled abroad. I wasn't having like any vacation with my family before I did that, so I was like 18 years of age before I made 19. And then it took me like, I don't know, 20 hours of traveling to get to that island. It was like a lot of traveling. Like you get on a plane, then I land in Chicago, then I get a train to Sandusky, then a guy of my employer with a limo picks me up, drives me to a ferry, I get on the ferry, and then I land on the island.
That must have been a big shock.
It was a big shock, not to mention just the first experience of getting Chicago subway, and just by landing on the airport, getting from the airport to Chicago downtown. If you have watched like Wanted, like the movie with Angelina Jolie, like all these like subways that are above the ground in Chicago, it's pretty wild. And I had like hard time finding the route to the center. It was funny because I actually had in my dorm in university like the map of Chicago's metro station. I was kind of like studying it before I go, but it didn't work.
It didn't really help out in the end.
Not really.
I can imagine it's like also because you see a lot so much at once. And Chicago is a big city. I mean, so many people. I've never been on their subway station.
It's crazy. I mean, and immediately as I landed in downtown, and there was like this homeless people and crackheads and just like ambulances, police. It was just like a mayhem. You never experienced this before.
And I'm guessing Ohio was a different vibe.
Very different vibe. Very like quiet. You live on an island. There's like pretty much like one grocery store. There's not much there. If you want to go to Walmart, you have to catch the ferry. You have no car, no bicycle. It just cannot do this every week, right? And I worked. That was like majority of my time I was like working, but there was fun experiences for sure. We traveled to Niagara Falls with a bunch of people that were also Bulgarians working there, and we convinced our employer at some point, almost at the end, to give us some car, like a Chevrolet Suburban. It was like 9 seats, like it was a huge car, and we drove to Niagara Falls, and then they exclusively told us not to go to Canada. But my roommate was kind of like stubborn, to say the least, and he kind of got distracted and thought like this is a parking lot, but it actually was like the
border,
the non-deputy zone. Yeah, it was like the bridge between Toronto and Niagara Falls, and I didn't have my passport. Nobody had a visa. It was really
a mess.
We got stuck for a day,
Oh, wow.
just explaining the situation.
And it's not your car either if they checked that.
No, I mean I still have this somewhere in home. They printed like a document, like if you come back again into this where you're just gonna go to jail. I'm not sure if I can go to Canada again. I'm still not sure if I can go there.
Wow, that is a memorable story. When you did these work abroads, it was mainly in Ohio, or did you go also to other states?
That was the first year, and I kind of knew that, it was like my 19th birthday, and I was like really excited, and I wanted to have a tattoo from Miami. There was like a TV show, Miami Ink. I have no tattoos, but I was like willing to explore. So even before I went to the US, I kind of made my go home ticket to be from Miami, and I had like no idea how I'm gonna make it. I didn't want to spend so much money, so I was like, I'm just gonna rent a car. I'm gonna sleep in the car. But it didn't work that way because I was like on the airport, landed in Miami, 19 years of age. You cannot rent a car if I don't know, they ask you for a credit card, they ask you for some kind of a supervisor, or you have to have like 25 years of age or something. But I was like really determined to do it. I went from kind of a oval office, and there's like the big companies like Hertz, Sticks, and all these companies like rejected me immediately.
Oh.
But then I found like some Mexican guy, and he was like, okay, so go to my cousin over there to some small, like almost like invisible company. He's my cousin. Ask Jesus for help. Tell him I sent you, and so I did. And he pretty much like gave me a car, and I was like, great. Yeah, it was funny because I didn't know that I'm gonna get the car, so I booked a hostel just for the one night. I have no idea where this location of the hotel is. I was like, let's go to South Beach because I know that the hostel is there, and I'm gonna figure it out. I pressed like the touchscreen of this GPS that they gave me with the car, and I'm driving, and I got there, and I'm asking, hey guys, like, where is this Miami High hostel? It's like, it's here, and I was like, is this impossible? I mean, I just click on the tablet and like, I found the place. Yeah, it was pretty fun because I found like a group of Bulgarians. They were also like having vacation in Miami. Like every workaway student that pretty much does this, you have a J1 visa and it expires on 30th September. It's every year the same, and that's my birthday actually, and my visa always expires on my birthday. You kind of have like 1 or 2 weeks past the expiration of your visa before you get like they're not gonna extradite you to Bulgaria immediately, but if they find out that you're with expired documents, they're gonna do it. Some people stay under the ground. Well, because it's kind of more complicated to get married, right? And a lot of people do that as well, but you need a love story. They're gonna spy on you for 2 years and make sure you live together until you
Sounds like you've done a lot of research into this.
Yeah, I had a girlfriend. She was married for a Serbian guy. That was the second year I lived in the States in San Francisco, but yeah, I didn't marry her because she was already married. Maybe I was about to stay there, but yeah, that was like a long story.
So it seems like you were really committed to possibly moving to the US. You have a lot of great stories, a lot of great adventures. You've seen a lot, met a lot of people, even Bulgarians. It seems like you found that community. What changed your mind to not go that route of moving permanently to the US?
Well, yeah, it was like my second year. I was working in Hard Rock Cafe, right on Pier 39, like pretty touristic place across Alcatraz. But it was like a year that it was like, I don't know, some tectonic plates were shifting in this restaurant. Like the chef quit, the general manager quit. They kind of started to do this renovation of Hard Rock Cafe. So a lot of things changed, and I realized like half of the people I worked with were not the friends that I desire, and if I do stay, they're pretty much the only friends I have until I found another one. And the reason I'm saying is because all these people were, if they weren't drug addicts, they were like ex-prisoners, or the easiest place to get a job after you get in jail in the US, it's pretty much food and beverage. So not the ideal situation. And I was like, maybe just better to go back in Bulgaria and study. And yeah, that's what I did. Just couldn't figure out like what are the benefits of staying. And then I did a third work away before I went to Czech. That was like pretty much the most intense 6 months of my life. Before I actually went to this third work away, I needed to have all my exams completed, and I also applied for this Erasmus thing. It was really intense to do this even before starting to travel. And then I traveled. I was like working in a 5-star resort this third year of my working travel. The only 5-star resort in Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like really insane for me because I love Kevin Kelly's as a entrepreneur, co-founder of Wired magazine. He had like a testimonial as this place is really nice. And I was working there making weddings, and I made like all kinds of weddings. I mean, it was bizarre, It was like gold diggers marrying like rich men, like all kinds of things. Really like posh kind of vibe. But anyway, it was really fun because it was a beautiful place because the resort was right on the coast.
Mm-hmm.
It was like UNESCO protected kind of thing. But I didn't stay in the US because it wasn't so easy to stay there and, fight the legal path to, get the green card.
But you could have done it a different way, no?
Yeah, I was considering the options, but I thought like it wasn't worth it because really wanted to go see my friends. The single thing that always pulled me back to Bulgaria were friends. And maybe the second thing was food. It's just like having access to this more tasty nutrition, vegetables and, all the other traditional stuff.
So you came back here, you continued studying.
And then I went to study in Czech. In University of Hradec Králové. Yeah, part of that semester I took there, I studied entrepreneurship, part of Erasmus Plus. It's like Erasmus in general, for those who don't know, it's like the most successful project and program of EU. It's like being run for 30 plus years so far. But yeah, being in Czech really changed a lot of things on how I travel and how I see things. Because before that, I was really like traveling to the States. It wasn't like exploring my own continent. Like you kind of learn the languages and there's a lot of more culture involved. We're all like kind of brainwashed from watching movies and listening to songs, and the American culture is more accessible, even if you haven't been there, than any other European country.
So a lot of experiences, you decide that you will graduate here. And when you graduated university here in Sofia, what was the next step for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because before I graduated, when I was in Czech and I was studying in Erasmus, I started this blog. So this was like pretty much the first time I felt like safe from financial standpoint. I had like this student grant. I had like my money saved from working all the summer. I invested in this startup and I had like some money left. And then I was like, cool, I made this WordPress blog and I started writing about flow, kind of like optimal psychology, how to get in the zone and those sort of things, kind of like telling my own stories. This was like the first step of how I got to meet like 2 other friends. Long story short, 3 of us landed this internship in Spain. But I invited them also to kind of co-author this blog. And the idea was like, let's go out in Spain, kind of live it, and take a gap year before we study masters, travel, and hopefully this blog is gonna blow up and we're not gonna study, right? So this was like kind of like naive, but it was a work experience.
So you went to another country, Spain, to live.
We started a podcast. So we had I started this podcast called Jungle Jam about what we were doing, how to make Erasmus more accessible, because there's like all these trainings. You don't have to be a student. You can be just a youth. A youth is in European kind of standards is anybody between 16 and 29, I believe. So if you're in this range of age, you're eligible for 12 months of mobility, they call it. And the mobility is like EVS, it's like European Voluntary Services. They kind of changed the name to European Solidarity Corps after 2020. And then you have all these Erasmus programs like KA1, KA2, the internships, and the educational part that I had in Czech. And then the last part is Mundus, which is joint master degree. I didn't do only this one. The other things I've done at least once. We were writing these projects, right? We were not only like talking about how you can get Erasmus mobility, But we were actually on a day-to-day job was create this project, apply, and see if the EU Commission is gonna approve it. And I wrote like 2 projects they approved. It was really nice. And while we were having this podcast, one day like the supervisor came in, Daniel, sort of like a second father to me, and it's like, "Hey guys, do you want to go in Uganda?" And we looked at each other and was like, "Yes, we're gonna go." It was like 6 months later, we extended the internship.
So a lot of traveling,
A lot of
of
things.
places you've lived. But what was the moment, like what happened in your life that you said, okay, I'm going to settle and stay in Bulgaria. No more going, just traveling to work abroad. No more trying to make the most of the Erasmus program. I want to try to put my roots here in Bulgaria.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it happened in Uganda. So when I landed in Uganda, and like again, I went with these 2 guys, my 2 best friends at the time, and we spent 3 months, like 90 days in Uganda, and we thought like, it's gonna be really fun. We're gonna have a lot of free time. We're gonna pretty much be financially independent. I was like millionaire the first time in Uganda, currency wise. We thought we're gonna pretty much have the ability to do what we want, but didn't work that way exactly. So they were kind of disappointed that they didn't have the freedom to do whatever they want. And I was like, cool, but I'm gonna teach, I'm gonna, educate these kids in the orphanage. To answer your question, it was the first time I felt grateful to be Bulgarian, just by seeing what I have and those kids don't have. And previously, traveling to the US, to Spain and Czech and so on, it was all living in economically more developed countries. And, you kind of want to stay because it kind of pulls you, right? You want to go experience that abundance. You want to tap into the opportunities, experiences. And the first time I saw that there's like a country that got it worse than Bulgaria, and I was like, I can't complain. I don't have the rights to complain. So I was like, I just want to go back. And I had this opportunity to go back and also do what I love. So even before that, I had this internship here in Bulgaria while I was studying in university for like a startup that's like non-formal education. Education was really like a big passion of mine. I think of myself as a good teacher, not only like a marketer. And I taught like people how to speed read books. So this was the idea of like, cool, I'm just gonna call it quits. Uganda is the last thing. I committed to staying in Bulgaria just to pursue this entrepreneurship path of helping people how to speed read books, increase their creativity, memory comprehension, and concentration with 300 to 500%. And we did, like, I didn't make any money of that.
Yeah.
But just like the fulfillment of helping these people learn and, get their exams faster, get a raise, just learning and adapting new skills. And it was just really a satisfaction.
It seems that is a topic that repeats itself throughout your whole story, that you like to do things that help people, that will have an impact. Maybe the money is not the main motivation for what you do. I would like to ask you, what did people think around you here in Bulgaria when they were thinking probably you would be somewhere abroad, you would probably make more money, and you come back and you say, okay, I've decided I'm going to do this project here, help people learn how to read faster. I'm not sure I will make any money from this, but it's what I want to do, and I'm going to do it here in Bulgaria.
Yeah, it was like, everybody was like, kind of like, this guy, let's see what he's going to do, curious what's going to happen. But they were looking at maybe as, I'm kind of like a naive, but to answer your question, because I had this conversation with my father a lot of times, all these people go to the US, they work all summer, they save money, they come back to Bulgaria, they buy a car, they buy a house, they, something. I didn't buy anything. I came back pretty much, if not with zero, with a few $100 left.
Yeah.
And I reinvested everything, just learning, just, trying to do cool things, getting more experiences.
Yeah.
That was my whole thing. But I also met these other people who actually did that. They actually saved a lot of money. They didn't travel, so they worked all summer in the US. They didn't travel anywhere. And they had the regret of not doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
But they had the money, and, I was like, cool, you have the money, but will you go back and travel?
But if we dive into, okay, you started this initiative with this reading, and then I guess your business after that with the marketing. What do you wish people knew about starting an initiative in Bulgaria? What does that look like here in Bulgaria?
Yeah, a lot of people think it's very complicated. It's very like maybe looking outside in, right? If you've never been, what it actually looks like is if you know the people who already do things that are sort of innovative, sort of new age in a approach, like in business setting, in initiative wise, there are a lot of doors that can be opened for you. And what I mean by that is you don't need much of things to start. All you have to do is just to introduce an idea and to find 10 people and to share it with, and just to give it a try and commit to pursuing it. I think this is just the fundamental. And I know it sounds simple, but a lot of people are just like overthinking how to start. They're making this huge checklist, huge plans. They need to make a lot of preparation for something that might not work. And I just test things before I commit.
So you're saying that in Bulgaria may not be different than anywhere else in the world to start an initiative. The process is the same, and you just need to get started. And
yeah, and the difference here from an opportunity standpoint is that I look at it as a playground compared to Western countries, right? As yes, you have like a smaller market, like population-wise and stuff, and economical power and stuff, but there are also less businesses, there are also less things that are sort of invented, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just get something that it's proven to work somewhere else and kind of adapt it to Bulgaria. And a lot of businesses happen this way here. A lot of people do it in one way, shape or form, bringing different technologies from Western countries in Bulgaria, different ideas, and sort of re-implement them here. Also, there's a lot of innovation that happens in Bulgaria that also gets internalized in Western countries. And I think this is something that few people might have considered, because there's also Sofia Tech Park, which is, they have to discover supercomputer. There's like IBM Blue, and this is one of them. So it's like super innovative and advanced, and they're not even tapping into, I don't know, less than 20% of its capacity. So they're looking for more people to come and use it. That's the whole idea. So this is just one example of.
Yeah, that I also agree that there are many opportunities that I see here in Bulgaria, just because there's a lot of gaps in the market that still needs to be taken by someone, and the competition yet is not that high yet, I say, because who knows in a few years' time what it will be like. What I do see is that there are a lot of people who are not Bulgarian that are coming to Bulgaria and taking up maybe these spaces, and then there is people who are returning from abroad back to Bulgaria that are also taking up space in the market. So I do kind of see that maybe within time, the market will become more competitive within different industries. But for now, if you're here and you have the idea in the next few years to do something, I think it's a kind of a gold mine for new ideas and new initiatives that you can find support and you can find your people.
And the cool part, I just want to highlight this and stress it maybe, because it kind of gets swept under the rug maybe. It's that it's easier to look different in Bulgaria. And not only different, but there's this subtle thing that it helps you be different in a cool way. Because it's easier to look different in a weird way, but as soon as you do some kind of initiative, some kind of project, some proactive thing, like most people don't do it here.
Why do you think that is? Why are people not taking these opportunities?
Because they just kind of succumb to the national state of mind, you know what I mean? It's like they're kind of doing what everybody else is doing, and unless you get the perspective of traveling and seeing what is possible, and I don't know, for some people you just get touched, you just kind of get triggered from seeing what could be done, it's not done yet in Bulgaria, and that's what motivates them to, but cool, so this thing exists here in Germany or whatever, why don't I do it in Bulgaria?
Yeah. What do you think are some of the challenges or difficulties people will experience if they do decide to do a new initiative or a new business or help a small, medium business company? What have you encountered as a challenge starting your business or your initiatives or the people that you know around you? Because I'm sure you know.
Well, it could be definitely very lonely if you're not in the ecosystem at first. It's kind of everybody starting this without an entrepreneurial background. It's sort of an outsider in this space. But as soon as the biggest difference is between 0 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is the main challenge. And there's all kinds of other challenges as finding your first client and finding traction in some way. This is the biggest challenge. I don't know, it's like, inherently Bulgarian challenge, but I would say that it's just about mindset and perspective. I would say this is the biggest challenge because it is possible to do things even if you don't have a lot of people. A lot of people just get this assumption. I would say just the common misconceptions are the biggest challenge. And just test your assumptions. There's like, people don't have money in Bulgaria. There's like not enough clients in Bulgaria. People like to be cheap in Bulgaria. Like all these things are the biggest challenges.
That's the mindset aspect of it, that because you think this way, but you don't test the market, you may just give up before starting.
Exactly. And it's surprisingly high percent of people, I believe, give up before they start. And the only thing you need is just to start and keep going. Yeah. Just enjoy writing and keep on writing.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to say it, that people just need to start and just continue moving forward and see where they can take an idea and make it go. My next question to you, and where I would like to bring the conversation, is more towards, with your decision to stay here in Bulgaria, how do you think it has impacted your personal life, your social life, and health?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it helps me stay connected with my family and also my friends, and I'm really grateful for having maintained like friendships from kindergarten and stuff. Like, I think it's just like really hard otherwise to be grounded and to stay true to your North Star in life, unless you have some grounding experiences with people who still live in your hometown. Not necessarily you have like similar lifestyle with those people who stay in your hometown, but you kind of see what's the difference, Well,
also they know you since you were a kid. I guess that also makes the connection with them deeper, and that you guys have discussions because they see the path that you've taken from when you were a child until now. I mean, that's kind of something that I envy personally, is the fact that I don't have a friend that I know for 28 years, for instance.
And yeah, it was really suitable to starting this business, and I pretty much started with 0 as a consultant and also helping people and businesses to get clients, and that was pretty much my business. And it was easy for me with cutting costs to start and run this in Bulgaria. Otherwise, I should have had another job. But even people in Bulgaria do it this way. I just found a way to really be absurdly cheap in the beginning and cut a lot of costs. I lived with a lot of roommates, even traveling, and before that I had like 50 plus roommates across all the places I lived with. It's funny, only roommates, 50 plus, without counting the flatmates. It's like a lot more. But
that's also something that I find that in Bulgaria it's not very common that people live in a house with other people, that there's housemates, flatmates.
That's a good point. Yes, a lot of people, especially if you're like, born in Sofia, you kind of still live with your parents or something like that. And I think this is just like limiting in so many ways. You just don't have the perspective of not even like having a foreign friend. Although I think like everybody should have like somebody, like a foreigner friend who you often talk to, just to like apply critical thinking, even news-wise or whatever it is, just to stress things, events and stuff. And having this culture perspective. But having roommates really enables you to find interesting opportunities, especially if those people you live with are doing the same things as you. In business, in my case, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of people get concentrated in Sofia, especially those who are, ambitious and want to do business and stuff. So it's easier to connect with people here.
I agree. The connections are easier.
In a health perspective, I believe it's nice because I found a place that it's close to the park and I can go for a walk. But Sofia is pretty unique in a way that I think there's very few capitals in the world that has a mountain with over 2,500 meters peak. You literally can take public transportation if you don't have a car to go for a hike in the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's kind of extraordinary. You don't have it in other places like this, and it's affordable.
And that's one of the things I really enjoy about living in Sofia. I've never had this experience before to just be... I lived in flatlands before, always flat. And then here I am, the mountain is right there. And every single time I'm so thankful that I can see the mountain Vitusha from the center. It's just a very beautiful, and somehow, even though you're not on the mountain, just seeing it somehow connects you with nature a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not very healthy to be in the city all the time. But I'm pretty convinced that it's way better than if I lived in a Western country. In a bigger city, it's just way more chaos. You're going to spend more time commuting. I think this is just a no-go. And as a person who, I think it's pretty evident by now, it's like freedom is my primary virtue. It's like, I'm not willing to spend, 2 hours a day commuting. Like, doesn't matter where you go, I guess, in a bigger city, in a Western country. Even in Bulgaria, you can commute for 2 hours in Sofia. So I think it could be even more. You
even cycle, I think, by bike most places in Sofia.
Yeah, I cycle even to here. I come with a bicycle, and I believe that if I make it with the business, I will definitely try to find an initiative to create more, how do I say that, like a...
Bike lanes.
Bike lanes, exactly. And it was a really cool story that, a lot of people think like Amsterdam is the best place for cyclists and stuff. But it's Copenhagen. They have just the infrastructure is so good.
How is life here cycling?
It's tough. Last year I got stitches. Kind of almost got crushed with a tram.
Oh, man.
But anyway, it was my fault. But the idea is that in every other major European city, you get regulations for less cars in the city center, and with regulations being that you get charged more for parking tickets and fines and so on. But it's the opposite in Bulgaria, which is sort of retarded, if you ask me. Even in Sofia University, if you know, there's the subway at Sofia University, and on the back of it, there used to be this street walk, right? But they put lights instead of a street walk for the pedestrians. And I think that was a dumb idea, because instead of making more
pedestrian areas where cars don't drive,
you're just you're giving more leverage for car traffic. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not constantly driving cars, but I'm constantly cycling, so maybe I'm biased, but this is just the way that Western, more developed countries have implemented it, and I think this is a normal path to go.
Is that how you would like to see Bulgaria improve in the future? More bike lanes?
Of course, because it's weird that a lot of people say, the air in Sofia is kind of dirty and stuff, but it is true. But the funny part is that there's so many green parks and spaces within Sofia that are not connected with bike lanes that it's just kind of disappointing. And it could be easily done, I think, if there are better governors and ideas and less bureaucracy in that respect. But
so I would look forward to hear you say that someday I am a part of the project to make more bike lanes in Sofia.
They did it in my hometown. They were having elections. They always do this kind of social things. before elections, they did a bike lane across the city. It was not a bike lane. It literally painted half of the pedestrian road with a yellow paint that got washed out after the May kind of rainy season.
But going apart from bikes, how else would you like to see Bulgaria change in the next 5 years, and also your life here in Bulgaria?
It's an interesting question. I believe a lot of communities should be formed, a lot of spaces like this that we're filming the podcast, all this kind of like environments for creating, because to create, a lot of people say, internet is free, information is free, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, it is free, but you need an environment, and environments cost bills, electricity, utility bills, and all these like things. And this is what people need, like a free and as close to zero and close to free as possible to get in a community. And then the more wide of a funnel you create for communities and for environments for people to get engaged and to start to think differently, the easier for change and innovation. You're creating predisposition for change and innovation to happen and to thrive. All you need is just an environment. And people don't have this, People, again, they live with maybe like a roommate that's complete idiot and they cannot focus and study. They just need an environment. Maybe they cannot afford to go to a co-working to develop their idea, and they need a better mentor and better environment with friends and stuff. And so
I'm so happy that you point this out, because it is one of the things I'm also passionate about, and I think is also the gateway for a lot of people to evolve and do something they're really passionate about, is you start creating these communities. And for me, it's more on my heart actually to create these communities in the smaller cities, not so much Sofia, because I feel that in Sofia, these communities exist already, more or less.
True.
But if you go to, for instance, I don't know how it is in Pleven, but in Yambol or Burgas, these communities, if they do exist, they're very small and no one knows about them. And there isn't a place to go and to start being creative and to start thinking of solutions for things that you think are problems and getting that community help.
And I want to give you a compliment about finding this place, no other places in all these communities. I'm like, when you post some things online, how did you find this? I had no idea those places exist. Like, sometimes I still wonder. So you kind of have this skill to discover those kind of under the surface places.
It is a personal passion of mine to find these kind of hidden gems, I guess, of things that are happening within the city or Bulgaria. And that's kind of how I see how I'll have impact in this country. But how do you see that you'll have impact?
Yeah, it's great that you ask it again in a different way. So just to touch on that you said having more communities outside Sofia is more important for you. I do agree, because, and even my impact, I might have at some point an episode going back to my hometown and sharing my lessons. I don't know if there's somebody who's willing to hear, apart from maybe going to my high school and doing a lecture there, or pretty much targeting students who are not going to be there a year from now, which is kind of sad, because I trained Taekwondo in my hometown, and it kind of like, some point I thought about the career of my Taekwondo trainer. And it's kind of sad, because you train all these people from 2nd grade to 12th grade, and just at the point that they reach their kind of like peak athletic form or whatever, they're kind of like moving on.
Yeah. Well, if he is a trainer, he's still doing it. He sees value in the fact that he's gotten them to where they are. I can imagine he sees himself as a step which helped his students grow further on.
Yeah, I hope he does. And perhaps my influence that I wanted to share and to impact Pleven is just to create more of a community and more of a environment for people to not only thrive while they're studying in high school, but to create an environment and predisposition for them to stay, I don't know, freelancing or developing a business, just, benefiting from the low costs of living there, but enjoying a community that also is like-minded, which is, there is a shortage of that.
So then this makes me ask the question, do you think you would move back to Pleven?
No, as I said in the beginning, the north sucks. It's not like the south, you know. It's divided, you know. I hope that this is gonna be introduced into the Guinness records at some point. But you know, Hemus, the highway, that it's still work in progress. It should be in the Guinness records of the longest project in the world of making a highway. It's just, you know. They started even before World War II, or I don't know when, but not speaking with factual numbers, but it's sort of in this direction. So just, this is one of the factors that the West, it's majorly handicapped in Bulgaria speaking, because it's geographically divided by Stara Planina, the mountain, and it's just way harder for information and people and energy to, you know, transfer to
there. So I shouldn't imagine you in Pleven soon. Okay. We have one more thing we'd like to do before we end our podcasts, and that is that we have our bowl of questions. I don't know if you've heard about it before, but draw a question and read it out loud.
I love this tradition. I kind of suspect where you got the idea from. Anyway, here's the question. What is a memorable, cultural, or festive experience you had in Bulgaria? I think a cultural experience in Bulgaria that's very underestimated are the taxi drivers.
Oh, I did not expect that answer.
I know, but it's true. And it's like the single point of failure and single point of getting this cultural shock as a Bulgarian coming back home. Because it's funny how this works. You know, many people get cultural shock when they travel abroad, but I always got it when I come back to Bulgaria.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like the disappointment was overwhelming.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, you know, this is like kind of like from marketing experience. The taxi driver is one of the first touch points coming back, you know? It's like literally the guy picks you up from the airport. It was always like, it starts so nice, and then he just starts to, you know, put in the radio, whatever he wants, to like kind of explain how his life sucks and how you made the wrong decision to come back to Bulgaria. Why did you come back at all? It's like reminding you the reality and how people live. I think this is like memorable cultural experience. One, when with my friends, we were about to go for this internship in Spain, and there's still two terminals in the airport in Bulgaria. So we got the wrong terminal. I should have checked this because I trusted my friend, never gonna do that again for this specific thing. But he sort of led us to the wrong terminal. We had like to change in the last moment. So we got this taxi driver, and he was like, "Cool, guys, how are you doing? I'm gonna get your luggage," and he put it in the bag, and everything was fine. So we start, and then as soon as we start driving, and there's like a lady that cut him off, and he was like starting to curse, and it's like everything shifted within a second, you know.
Yeah.
It was like, and you look at it as the guy was like so nice, so respectful, but it's like one thing is like flips like the script 180 degrees.
Yeah.
It's just like all these experiences, you know, some of the best business advice I got from a taxi driver is like, there's so many stories just like taxi drivers in Bulgaria. He said this quote, from so much work, I don't have time to make money. And I thought like, this genius.
You do gain much wisdom from taxi drivers, I would say. I also have, I mean, it's every single time I come, when I was living abroad, I have to take a taxi to get to, let's say, the bus station. Every single time I get into the taxi, I get some knowledge from the taxi driver. It's amazing how much knowledge these people have. But
but it's true, you know, it's like, I believe this is a blessing that Uber didn't make it in Bulgaria, because taxi drivers are a cultural heritage.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I am very thankful for that story. It's a nice point of view of a cultural experience in Bulgaria. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here today. It was definitely an episode packed with a lot of stories, that is for sure. And I think it's interesting that life just kind of brought you to different places in the world. And it seems like life just brought you back to Bulgaria to make a life here.
Yeah, and if I can close with this, I want to motivate and inspire more people to travel with purpose. What I mean is like I even had this blog article when I was writing the blog. Try to travel to give, not to travel to get. And if you do go abroad, just like learn and try to adapt things when you come back home.
Yeah, that's a great way to end this podcast. Well, thank you for joining us. And also thank you, our audience, for watching this episode. I hope you've gained a lot from this, our talk here with Alex. He has definitely opened my mind into how traveling abroad can help you create an impact back here at home. I would also like to give a shout out to where we're running these podcasts, Resonator Innovation Hub, a creative technology hub offering R&D services and affordable access to cutting-edge prototyping labs, from devices and software labs to co-working spaces to podcast meeting spaces. They have a lot to offer. You can check them out and learn more on their website, which you'll find below in our notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And if you think that there's someone out there who is considering to move back to Bulgaria or is interested in the topic, please share it with them as well. Also, we are on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you would like to give us a follow there, we would greatly appreciate it. And go out there and do amazing things today. Bye.